something I often hear when I'm working with companies on their marketing and their messaging is, how do I convince leads or people looking at my business that paying more for me is actually worth it? And how do I convince them that that's actually the case? And this is something I've had to deal with a lot, especially because I work with companies on their marketing. Like I had mentioned, I work with them on their website. And, thinking about Marcus Sheridan's book, They Ask You Answer, this is something I often try and kind of combat or resolve on their website, because we don't want to wait for that lead to ask them about the pricing. Because what ultimately happens is people don't like having this tough discussion about pricing. So if they see a price that's higher, let's say that's you, your price comes out to be higher than your competitors, they're not going to have that discussion with you, and they're just going to ghost you entirely. So the problem here often comes down to, when it comes down to pricing, is a perspective issue. As long as the person that you're not talking with is truly in a financial challenge and hiring you because you charge more is actually a bad financial decision for them, as long as that's not the case and they're just trying to figure out, okay, are you the right decision? Should I actually consider this lower priced company? Most people are wired to find the better deal. And what we ultimately need to do is adjust their perspective. Right? Because their perspective is going to be how they judge whether your company, the more expensive one, or your competitor is the right choice. And ultimately, when it comes to their perspective, the challenge they have is they don't know what the difference is between the two companies. In this case, we'll just say there are two companies, your company being the most expensive and the competitor being the cheaper one. They don't know how to compare them. They look at the estimate and they're like, okay, this estimate has this thing, this one has the same thing. They don't see the difference, because ultimately the difference comes down to your service, but also some unsaid things in the discussion. They just didn't ask the right questions to learn what those things were that differentiated you. And there are really two big differences that you can use to kind of shift this perspective and make them think more logically about why it's actually worth them paying, we'll call it the premium for you, and how this may actually work better for them in the future. And there are two things that we can address here. One is just bare bones financial. Maybe you are a landscaping company, maybe you're a window cleaning company. When it comes to these two kind of things, and this applies to many other industries as well, but let's say for landscaping, if they are hiring you to do a large project, one that requires a lot of experience, one of the things that you can hit on is, because we have all of this experience, we can see, and based on our experience, we know that, okay, doing this may cause other issues. So we will go ahead and include this in the price. So by the time we are done with the project, we've not only done the thing that you've asked us to, but we've also prevented a lot of the common issues that show up when we do this on your property. And you could also say, hey, because our competitors don't quite have as much experience that we do, if you hired them to do this same thing, chances are they would miss, this would cause a drainage issue on your property, and you'll have to hire them to come back out and spend another $2,500 to get this drainage issue resolved. So suddenly the cheaper option is actually looking like the more expensive option, because you factored in with your experience that, you need to resolve this drainage issue on their property. And that's included in your price. So suddenly let's say the $7,500 project, which was the cheaper one, is now over 10, which is what you quoted the project at. If you quoted 10, but it includes the resolution to that drainage problem, but the $7,500 one didn't, suddenly they have to pay the extra money to get that thing resolved. So one of the things that we can touch on is the financial side. And this is one of the easiest things to get people to change their perspective, because it's very easy for people to look at and say, okay, if A is less than B, I should go with A instead. It's very easy for people to do that. And it's also very valuable because people think about money very emotionally. They don't want to let it go. So if you can convince them that actually your solution is the cheapest, you're going to have a real easy time of convincing them that you're the right decision. Say for window cleaning, maybe you're a window cleaning company with insurance. You think everybody has insurance, but maybe this competitor doesn't. You can talk to them about, okay, because this competitor doesn't have insurance, okay, if something goes wrong on your property, your rates may go up. You may actually have to spend a lot more money on the side that wasn't factored into this project. And this just goes back to the financial side, painting a very clear financial picture for them, clearing up and making it, very obvious that actually you're the cheaper option here, even though our estimate came out to be a little bit more. Okay. The other side of this is the experience. Okay. And when I say experience, this really comes down to the customer experience that you provide to them. So maybe your service doesn't really have a clear financial gain, or maybe there isn't really any way that you are convincing them that you're going to ultimately be cheaper over the long run. But maybe you have a ton of experience in the industry. Maybe you have just a ton of excellent reviews and you've refined your customer experience to where people don't have to babysit you to be there on time each and every service. They don't have to deal with it. You just show up, you get the job done, you provide great results, and they can just sit back and enjoy the work that you provide. That right there, that is something people value, and that is something you can communicate. And many people, maybe this isn't necessarily the case for people who are a little bit more conscious about the money that they spend, but maybe generally for higher income families, a lot of them value the experience. A lot of them value the simplicity and the customer experience that you provide in communication, in your ability to provide good quality results that they may not get from a cheaper competitor. So that is something that you can also communicate. Maybe you don't have the financial difference that you can communicate here, but you have the experience that you can show in case studies, in testimonials, in pictures, before and after pictures. You have all of these great things that you can show them that, okay, sure, we charge a little bit more, but in reality, you're not going to have to worry about us being late. If you ever have questions, you will always be able to reach somebody in our office to get that question answered. There are just all of these really nice things that come with our business. So now they have something to compare against the competition, that cheaper competition. They're like, ooh, wait, I don't know if, competitor B, who is cheaper, actually offers all of this stuff. So now they see why you charge more. So that's a big difference here. You have your financial side, which is, okay, actually over the long run will be cheaper. But then on the experience side, you're actually communicating why you are actually more expensive and what they get for that. So it's two different perspective shifts in ways that you can communicate why you actually charge more. And it's two different strategies to it that both work. And that is something you have to think about. If you say go on your website and you say, here's why we charge more than our competitors, you may filter out some customers, but the people who ultimately hire you are going to be higher quality. They're going to be more excited to work with you. They're probably going to stick with you longer, and they're going to be less willing to be affected to, say, price hikes in the future as you need to increase your price because they are okay with that and they see the benefit that you are getting from that they are getting from working with you. So now the big question comes down to, when do you answer this question? Right, and this is very important. Because as I discussed earlier in this video, if you wait to address all of these things until after you show them the price, there is a big risk that the person that you just showed this estimate to is going to end up ghosting you. Because people don't like having these hard conversations, especially when it comes to money. Maybe it's something that they don't feel like they can afford. Maybe it's something where they're just trying to find the best deal and they don't understand why they should pay more for you. So what ultimately happens is if you wait to have this discussion until after you give them the estimate, it's very possible that you've already lost that lead. Which is why earlier in this video, again, we talked about They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. And the concept of that is addressing the objections that they have right out of the gate. So by the time they call you, by the time they start talking with your team, they are pretty much ready to sign that contract. You've already addressed their objections. You've already addressed all of their concerns. So now they just needed the estimate. They just need to sign off on it and they're ready to go. That is the dream. So that is why I argue, instead of waiting until after you give them the price, you have a big, bold section on your website saying, here's why it is worth paying more for us over the competition, or something along those lines. You want it to be almost a little bit, you want it to be bold. because that's going to get people to click on it. You're getting into their mind because, just because you don't address it doesn't mean they aren't thinking it. Everybody's thinking about the pricing situation. So you can ignore it, but silently it's actually affecting your lead, your potential customers' buying decision, and it's probably going to hold them back from moving forward with you if you don't address it. So in my opinion, I would address this on the website directly, on the home page. And if you have a pricing page, talk about it on the pricing page. If you send estimates, attach a video on that estimate talking about here's why this estimate may be more than our competition, and go through here, create a list of what makes you different. Create a list if it's a project where you can maybe make the case that actually it's going to be cheaper for them over the long run. Create that video, talk about why that's the case, and give them a reason why they should pay more for you. And if you do a good job in that video, people are going to actually be excited to pay more for you because they see the value, they see the benefit. And, people value the simplicity of working with a good quality company who offers good results, great communication, and good quality service. Those are things that people value, and people put a monetary value to that, and they factor that into their buying decision. So, here in this case, we were just talking about pricing, but this same thing can be applied all over your website, all over your marketing materials. Any common objections that you hear on the phone that are potentially holding people back, address those things right out of the gate on your website, because again, the dream is by the time they reach out to you, they've already got all their objections addressed. They're just ready to sign the contract and move forward with you. So that's the idea here. We talked about the pricing. We talked about how you can get people excited to pay more for you. But if you have any questions, please let me know. And, one big thing I do want to mention, as far as acquire and convert, I am looking for content ideas. If you have something you want me to answer when it comes to marketing or conversions, please let me know. I'd love to make a video for it if enough people suggest it. So put in your suggestions. I'd love to make a content piece for it. And let me know if you have anything else.